in a culture, and as a leader, you might have, there's two big issues a leader with regards to culture that you want to make sure that you're cognizant of. And that's ethnocentrism, which is simply, this is the thought process that says, I'm looking after my own first. It says this is the tendency to place where a leader has their group at the center of their observation of others in the world. Ethnocentrism can be a major obstacle to effective leadership because it prevents people from fully understanding or respecting the viewpoints of others. For example, if one culture values individual achievement, it may be difficult for that person to understand collective work. So you want to, as a leader, when you're looking at the culture of the building, the person that you need to know, the culture you need to know more than any other culture is your culture. You see that long pause for effect? You need to know your culture. Your culture is so important. You need to know the values you're walking into the building with. You need to make sure that when you're thinking about how you're moving the school forward, what do I value? What's important to me? The next one is prejudice. In the context of prejudice, we're talking about is a largely fixed attitude, belief, or emotion held by an individual about another individual group that is based on faulty, unsubstantiated data. It refers to judgments about others based on previous decisions or experiences. This involves inflexible generalizations that are resistant to change or evidence to the contrary. So when I'm talking about, black males could do this and brown males could do this and they could do this, we're trying to address prejudice. And we all have them. And prejudice could be good or it could be bad. Prejudice are fixed views that have unsubstantiated proof, right? Like you're just saying, hey, this group is like this. But there's a lot of us that have somewhat positive prejudice that we won't admit. Like when I was a principal, my Asian kids, my kids that from, my Asian babies, for the most part, we always thought that they were just great at math and great at science. I had one young lady, she was Asian, she came in and her math grade was off, and I was like, what is going on? I'm sorry, y'all, I got my prejudice too. Stop playing games. Like, don't judge me. What's going on, girl? What's going on, May? You should be passing this class. And she's like, I hate math. It was a shocker to me. I had to check my prejudice. I had to check my own stuff. So leaders, when we talk about how to create a high-performing culture, I'm laying the foundation. You have to understand, you leader, you have to understand your prejudice. You have to understand what, who are you kind of liking and associating yourself with? What are your values that you bring to the table? So, how do we create a high-performing culture through a pandemic and have high academic success? Number one, you have to understand the culture. That is, know your data. That's the quantitative, but also know the qualitative data. Number two, to create a high successful culture and to move the building from a failing school to a high-performing school, you have to create a sense of urgency. If your house was on fire, you wouldn't haphazardly get water. You wouldn't haphazardly call 911. It would be a frantic, 911, hurry up, the building is on fire. It would not be this, yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it. Right? We would be going crazy to get water to the building. Why? Because there will be a sense of urgency. So principals and leaders, you have to create a sense of urgency. Right now, we need change now. Success needs to happen now. Kids can no longer fail. There needs to be intensity. Number 3, you must have a theoretical framework that drives your practice. You have to have a theoretical leadership framework that drives your practice. Leaders, you cannot be a leader that operates simply from his or her gut. I feel it. I got intuition. This is how I do it. This is how we always done it over here. Well, how you always done it got you in a failing situation. A theoretical framework, like I said before, it gives you a theory of action. It gives you something that says these sets of skills have worked already. When we talk about a theory of action also, please know you need to actually do the research to figure out what your leadership model is. Like what leadership model do you operate from? Are you a transformational leader? Are you an instructional leader? And oh my goodness. Folks, every principal and assistant principal is not an instructional leader. Come on. You know, everywhere you go, what kind of leadership style you got? Well, I'm an instructional leader. What? Folks, we all can't have the same leadership style. We're not robots. The problem is they said you was an instructional leader, and they said they was an instructional leader, and the principal said you got to be an instructional leader. You can't be successful without being an instructional leader, and I'm an instructional leader, and I'm the best instructional leader. So to be a purist instructional leader, and I know some people gonna get mad, they're gonna inbox me, it's okay, I'm not afraid of you. But to be an instructional leader, here's what you're saying. I know I am the professor, or I take a professorial role with regards to instruction. I am the guru on all things instruction. Are you the guru, all things of instruction, Mr. and Ms.? Yeah, I am. Yeah, I know all the pedagogy, and I know how to, assess teacher learning and making sure. All right, so maybe you are. I'm not an instructional leader. Ooh. But you do not have to be an instructional leader to move a building forward, is what I'm telling you. You have to have an instructional focus. But you don't have to be a purist in the theoretical framework of instructional leader. And if you are, that's okay. But most high school principals, when you're running a very complex organization, when you have Algebra 1, Algebra 101, Algebra 2, Geometry, Trigonometry, English 1, 2, 3, 4, you got History, Global Studies, all of these different subject matters, and you're the expert on all of them, and you know the curriculum for all of them, and you know the best way of teaching for all of them, you're a bad girl, a bad man. I'll tell you this, bad woman, a bad man, I apologize. You're bad either way. You good if that's you at a high school level. Because at high school level, there's so many complexities. Like there's so much content area. Instruction always needs to be the focus. Kids can't be successful without having instruction, without having good instruction, without having sound instruction. If we don't know, we got to know what they're learning. We got to do their formative assessment. So we need the instruction. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have to know your leadership theoretical framework. An instructional leader is not the only theoretical framework we can operate from in the high school and in the school. You could be a transformational leader in high school. The leadership style that I operated from, and which we will talk about, is culturally proficient leadership. This is a leader that understands the culture of the people within the building and then builds systems based off the people within the building so that the whole school can feel good and then operate and be successful. I really, to all the scholars of culturally proficient leadership, I will do a better job of explaining it. I apologize. I don't want to ruffle your feathers. I'll get into the minutiae of it in a minute. But essentially, that's the overall premise of culturally proficient leadership. Fourth thing, if you want to create a high-performing culture, you have to be able to weather the storm. It will get worse before it gets better. I promise you this. Before it gets better, it will get worse. When you start to take over a building, or you start to say, I'm going to make a change, you start to say, the losing stops, the failing stops. You walk in and say black kids are going to start to graduate. No more, no más, finito, fini, all of those things. When you say that, it will get worse before it gets better. Because the group, the body itself, does not really want to go through the pain, the anguish that it's going to take to transform. Failing is easy. Being sorry is easy. It don't feel good, but it's easy. It's easier to fail a test than it is to pass the test. To fail a test, anybody can do that. See? Anybody can do that. So it's easy to run a failing school. It's easy to run a school with low expectations. It's easy to run a discipline-first school, a no-tolerance school. We're going to kick you out if you look wrong, roll your eyes school. It's easy to run a school with 30% graduation rate. Anybody could be sorry. Anybody could be a failure. It don't take any effort to be a failure. It don't take any effort to be a loser. It don't take no effort for that. Just wake up in the morning and do nothing. I promise you, you will go to Failureville. But it takes effort and energy and desire and, sweat equity you have to put in. It takes everything in you for you to be successful. So if you got a school that's failing right now, you can do it. I know you can, but it's going to cost you. And you have to ask yourself and look in the mirror, and only you can answer that. Do you really want that for your kids? Do they deserve it? Are they worth it? Or do you care if they get killed out in the street? Or do you care if they end up in prison? Or do you care if, they become less than and a reprobate to the community? We talk about how do you create a high-performing culture in spite of a pandemic. Principals, if you want to purchase, or school leaders, if you want to purchase this entire video, please email me below. Only $10. We'll get the entire video out to you. Secondly, we have a 10-week coaching session where we go through a cohort model, and we give you all the strategies necessary for your school to be successful. And lastly, if you want to be a part of the one-on-one sessions where my team and I come into your school and we look at your data specifically for your school and what you have going on, we would love to do that and make sure that we help you take your school from where you are now to where you ultimately want to go. Again, this is Dr. Mark Abraham, President and CEO of NBA Consulting Services LLC. Until next time, have a great day.